Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the author of the book, Social Selling, Techniques to Influence Buyers and Changemakers. I'm sitting here in Wokingham with Ian Moyse. Ian, introduce yourself.
Sure, so my name's Ian Moyse. Been Sales Director for many, many years and heavily involved in supporting social selling and the new way of selling in the buyer dynamic we now live in.
So Ian, you're involved in a number of situations where you're a judge at a number of awards for sales achievement, I mean, you were talking to me, and it'd be interesting for you to share some of your experience, because I think you actually have to interview the people, and they go through a certain selection process. So it's not just a case of we think Sandra's fantastic at selling and she works for IBM, therefore she gets a prize. They actually have to they work for the award.
Yeah.
So what things have you kind of learned through that?
So interesting, what I've seen come up is quite often those candidates in the sales awards come in to see a panel, and we then ask lots of questions and judge them, see how they behave, etc. I've done one recently, and social selling came up quite a few times as one of the differentiators.
And you asked them about social selling?
Well, it started with many of them talking around their differential being, and I'm involved in social selling, or my company's trained me a bit on this, seeing it as they're going to put it out there to help them win the award, that they're up there with it. But of course that invites questions. So the first question I hit them with, which became my pet question across the awards, which amused the other judges, was, well, give me your definition of social selling. And invariably what comes out is, as we've discussed in the past, is LinkedIn, which for me is, I give credit to LinkedIn, they've done a really good job of endorsing their sales navigator and approach as this equals social selling. It is a component of. LinkedIn does not own social selling, that's not all it is.
But social selling is a change of behaviour.
Absolutely.
It's not a tool.
Absolutely. It's something in your kit bag to help you in your sales process. Doesn't replace the existing sales methodologies, and it is sometimes using tools, sometimes it's using techniques and behaviours. But it's interesting hearing people who believe they're quite proud of, I'm a social seller, not even understanding really what the breadth of social selling is. And I think that's one of the big challenges
I think
there.
sometimes what they're doing is it's more of an account-based marketing, which is where we're saying we have a particular account, and what we need to understand is 10, 20 people. In the past we've just spoken to Fred in IT, and now we need to expand that, and we use Sales Navigator to do that. And we link to them.
Which you'd argue isn't a change in behaviour, right? Because you should have been doing it before.
We should have done it before,
There's these wonderful tools of social networking and all the modern stuff we've got that makes it easier. So instead of phoning up Bob and asking some questions and trying to figure out who in the organisation, and then phoning Sue, who Bob mentioned, and you can now do it electronically.
So as a modern salesperson, what are the attributes and what are the skills that you would see that a modern salesperson needs to have?
So I think a lot of it is they've still got I look for the fundamentals of ability and aptitude that they've always had before. Social selling does not take away the fundamentals of selling. Because great, you can use these tools to research, know a bit more about them, maybe get that initial conversation. But if you get that far and then you haven't got the skill set and the robustness to do what you did before, you're not going to be able to complete the sales cycle. Because you can't say, well, actually, can we take it back on social because I was quite good there, this isn't working for me. You've now got what you wanted to do. Social for me is a way to engage and get to a customer, but once you get there, we're sat chatting. I don't want to take it back onto that and go backwards. We're now here. So you've still got to have the skill set you had before. And what I see unfortunately is a lot of misunderstanding out there, where people think this is a newbie type approach to sales, and the millennials are going to come in and just do this, and the older salespeople, this hasn't got the right benefit. Where you think of, they've got all the experience of doing the traditional sales methodology, they should be utilising this to adapt to the new world, and then still leverage all the experience
when we do sales training, we always get the response. I always say that 20% of the people that do social selling training will become like ninjas, like immediately, and it's always like, well, that must be the millennials. Actually, it's not. Actually, usually it's people over 40 who were good networkers. Who would go to networking events and swap the business cards, and you're standing there having a cup of tea and go, so where have you travelled from? Oh,
Yeah.
Leicester. Oh, wow. I went to university there.
Yeah.
Oh, do you know the so-and-so pub? Oh, yeah. And immediately, I mean, the thing,
And that's the example I give, funny enough, when I'm trying to explain to people.
I know everything.
Yeah.
My girlfriend says, "Why do you know everything? A little bit about everything?" I said, "Because you put me in front of somebody, I can find a common ground between us. Whether you support Manchester United, Chelsea, Harlequins, whatever, I can find something, and that's what good salespeople can do.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is you're transferring that onto social.
Yeah. But it's doing it in the right way, right?
Yes.
And being appropriate. So, for example, let's context with the sales awards. A number of the candidates we had come through knew who the judges were beforehand. They only found the judges out a day or two beforehand, and which category who they were going to be judged by. But I could see who'd viewed my profile. And one of my questions I give a few of them when they'd say their social selling piece was, okay, tell me something you spotted about each of us on the judging panel. Now, I don't expect them to verbatim, but you might remember something that stood out about each of us. Oh, I saw you were at such and such for 10 years. Or I see you came from such and such area. I used to live there. But some of them, blank. Well, it take 5 minutes to have a quick look, and you've got to remember some of that. The other side of it is some of them misused it and were inviting judges to connect before they even came to the judging. Now, afterwards,
Well, that would have been me.
Yeah, well, after they'd met us, and the judges had a discussion around this of, is that comfortable or not? After they'd met us, lots of them reached out, to me, and I'm sure the other judges, and connected. Said, "Oh, actually, you mentioned this, and I'd be interested. Could I ask a question?" Which is great. They want to keep that network. They've got a connection now. Who knows that I might be useful to them in the future. Let's make that a connection. But it's having, I think, the appropriateness to figure out how to use this new medium as part of your sales tool bag, not to replace the way you used to do it, but how do I leverage it to be better at what I do in today's world, particularly when the buyer is doing it to you. That's the thing, and I know you meant to talk about that in your book and how you influence the right people. And I see people missing that.
Ian, that's been fantastic. Thank you very much.
Cool.
Thank you.